Welcome to the Mystic Psychology Podcast. I am really happy that you are here in the space where your spirit meets your everyday life and your energy becomes your guide. I'm Charlotte and I'm here to walk beside you as you reconnect with your truth, your intuition, and the deeper layers of who you truly are. Welcome to the Mystic Psychology Podcast. I'm Charlotte, if you're here for the first time, and I'm an intuitive and I'm a channel medium energy worker, and I am the founder of the Mystic Psychology Academy, where I help people learn about energy and their sixth sense, their psychic capabilities, and support them to integrate it into their daily life in a very grounded way. And today's podcast will all be about the good girl syndrome. And it's a topic that is very dear to my heart because I've known that syndrome, that's part of me, a whole long time in my own life. And that's why today we will go into what is the good girl syndrome and how can you notice it? What is it energetically? And also, what is it keeping you from as an energy worker? Or how does it actually affect your life? And the first steps getting out of that conditioning and syndrome, the good girl syndrome of always being nice. So for me, there was this point in my life where I remember I was working for my mentor a long time ago, a few years ago actually, and I was in Malta with him in a family constellation work, and he told me when I was there, he looked at me and he said, "What is the opposite of being healthy?" And I said, "Not being healthy." And he looked at me and he's like, "Wow, you can't even say sick." So, what he was going about, or what he wanted to tell me at this point, and it continues the story, but he wanted to show me that even when I was talking using my language, I would not use any under parentheses negative or uncomfortable words. So he looked at me and he told me, he said, "Well, have you ever thought about if you are nice and if you are good, who is bad?" And I looked at him and I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, you know that we live in polarity. So, in order for you to be good and in order for you to be a good person, there must be somebody bad." And I thought, oh, wow. So, in that moment, I really like my whole face was like, my eyes just were open, my jaw like opened, and my whole body was like shocked because I really understood what he was trying to tell me. He told me basically, I'm not as good as I think I am because being good means that I'm making other people bad. I'm being judgmental. I'm saying, well, you and you and you are bad, and this is, I'm good. So I had to let that sink for quite a long time. And that was really the turning point for me when I started to understand that my goodness is actually no goodness. And beyond that, I noticed that my goodness is just a way to sabotage myself and to live from a place of conditioning and a place of fear. And it came from, of course, like most things do, from our childhood. And it's not my mother's fault and not my father's fault. They didn't know any better. But I was raised in a very strict and dominant way from my mother. And my mother is a person, or was a person, who, when she had an opinion about something, she was very clear about what is right and wrong. She was very clear about, okay, This is right. And if you want me to love you, you have to be this way. So she was very clear about that. So, as children, what we do is that we are always looking for love because there's two ways for us, two decisions we can take as little children. And of course, this is subconscious. But the first decision is to stay authentic. And the second decision is to be adapted and adapt to our parents or to our surrounding in order to receive love. And of course, as a child, we always choose love because we need love to survive. There is no other way. So, of course, you choose to adapt. But then the authenticity of yourself is being suppressed. So if you grew up in, and maybe you know that, if you grew up in a way where you had to be the good child, the quiet child, the well-raised child, following the rules, and then you were the good girl, then you were nice, then you received love. And at the moment you didn't do that, you were neglected, or would be yelled at, or you would be punished, then you probably tend to go into that good girl syndrome, or always being nice syndrome. It's not only girls, but girls tend to it. So then you start becoming this person that always wants to make it right for everyone, always being nice, always creating harmony, always being like, okay, what does this person need? You come into a room and you check the room, you read the room in order to already know what do people need, so you can give them exactly what they need in order to be loved. So that makes you the nice and good girl. And probably people love you, and they loved me for sure. I mean, I was everywhere, always welcomed. I was always the person people were like, oh my God, Charlotte is so nice. She's so well raised. She's such a nice child. And I never had fights. I mean, never. I was never had a discussion with my ex-boyfriend because I was always nice, always finding solutions. But what was the cost? The cost was that I put myself, my real self, my Charlotte self, like my inner self, into the cupboard because I was not standing in for myself. I didn't say no. I would never say no. Like, people would want something from me. Okay, yes, of course. I'm always there, always doing it. But so I neglected myself, actually. I didn't give myself the love. I didn't give myself the opportunity to live my life. I actually just lived for others. So, what is happening in that is that you started to lose as a child your authentic self, and you learned that at one point your authentic self is not lovable, that how you are is not lovable. But of course, this is not the truth. Let me tell you this. It's total bullshit. Sorry. I usually don't swear, but yes, this has to be sworn now. It's complete nonsense, because people who love you for the nice girl, for the good girl, they don't love you. They love a conditioning of you. And that is not you. So who do they love? And many people tell me then, well, if I change, and if I change and start saying no and actually stepping in for my needs and what I really want, maybe they will not love me. Maybe they will leave me. But let me tell you something. If they leave you for who you really are, they never loved you in the first place. They loved a mask. They loved something that was not you. So then you can honor that people leave, because then you can be really like, okay, they actually don't love me. They love a story of me, but not who I am. So the good girl syndrome, or always being nice comes from a conditioning in your childhood. The conditioning that you're only being loved if you adapt to their needs, to their wishes, to their rights and wrongs, to their view of life. And you start neglecting yourself, your authentic self. And when you grow up, you have fear that you are being left or that you're not being loved if you actually step in for yourself and if you start becoming who you really are. Now, why is that important in energy work? Because energy work actually mirrors who we are also in our daily life, our conditioning. Very simple, because many people who work with other people tend to have this helper syndrome. And why? Because they are conditioned in, if I help you, I am receiving love, and then I'm loved, and so on. So probably you're doing this job because you're also in this good girl, I'm a nice person. I want to do, good for the world, and a bit of a helper syndrome because you were conditioned in this way. Now, why does that affect our work? First of all, I did a whole episode on the helper syndrome, so you can go back and watch that, which is very helpful. But the second thing is, if you're in a good girl syndrome, or if you're always being nice, it means that also with energies, you will always be in the positioning of saying yes to everything. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a problem, but the more you evolve in your energy work, this could become a problem. Why? Because also energy work is a reflection, a mirroring how we are in daily life. Now, I want to give you an example. So I had a client, or a participant actually, and she was classic good girl syndrome, like most of my participants and clients are, because it's also what is kind of in that field. And of course, because they feel attracted to me, and I had that topic. So when it comes to energy work, she received a lot of visions of other beings. Let's say they're beings, or dead people. And what happened was that she would invite all the energies subconsciously, but she couldn't say no to them. So she got really overwhelmed because she thought, like, okay, how am I going to manage all those energies? And how am I going to manage all these beings around me? I can't, it's like too much for me. So that too much was actually her not having the capability to say no because she wanted to be nice, even to those beings, because she wanted to help them all, because she couldn't step in for herself. So, also in energy work, it is super important that we understand when we become a channel for energy, that we understand to set also boundaries in certain times of energy work. For example, another example would be if we are giving energy work on a person's body, for example, just a normal classic body work session, and we would start getting visions or feelings, and I would start feeling responsible, not saying no, it's not mine, stepping into my channel and not having the capability to do that, then I will start carrying under parentheses all these energies and all these emotions and visions and everything for this person. So it is super important to understand that this also affects not only our daily life, because you're not living your authentic self, but also in energy work, that you are also not stepping in for your channel, for your work. And the first step out of this good girl syndrome, besides realizing that you are not doing any good, is that you really start to become aware when you are stepping into that niceness, when you're putting on that mask because you don't want to be uncomfortable, because you don't want that, under parentheses, fight or discussion, because you are not willing to say no. So the first thing is awareness. The second thing is to realize that when you are a good girl and nice, that you're actually lying to people, which is not very nice. Because when you act like everything is okay and you say yes to something you mean no to, or you actually feel a no to, then it's a lie. So you're lying to people. Think about it. Third thing is to be okay feeling uncomfortable, because the first thing that will happen to you when you start saying no is that you will feel awful. Because your whole system is so used to adapting to other people that when you're the first time that you step in for yourself, you will maybe start sweating, your body, your muscles start being tense. It will take a lot of energy from you to really step into that no. And I will do another podcast. It will actually be one of the next episodes in how to say no. And also go to my podcast about shadow work, where you can learn how you can deal with uncomfortable emotions. So I remember, and I want to tell you this story, when I was also working for my mentor, and he asked me something, and I can't remember what it was, and it wasn't that important, but he basically told me I should be honest now about how I'm feeling about this topic. And my whole body froze, like really literally. I went into fight, flight, and freeze. So I went into freeze, and my whole system was like stone, cement, really, like I couldn't move. My neck, like in my neck, I felt like as if there was a ball, something choking me. And I wanted to say what I was thinking and feeling about this topic, but I couldn't. It was like I wanted to, but it just didn't come out of my mouth. And I started sweating and shivering. So I had all these effects on my system, because my system thought that I would be neglected if I tell him the truth. He would not love me when I'm telling the truth. He would judge me if I'm not telling the truth. He would punish me. So he would sit there, I think for like, it felt like hours, but I think it was like 10 minutes, looking at me, waiting for an answer. And he was very patient with me. So he was like sitting there and he was waiting while I was really trying to tell him what I thought about this topic, and I can't remember it. And then I actually, after like really long time, 10 minutes, something like that, I told him what I was thinking, and he reacted in a very sweet and, very professional way. And he would not neglect me, of course, not punish me or anything else. And I would feel like my whole system, like my whole nervous system went like down. So I started like fully to relax. And when I went out of this room, I was exhausted, really exhausted. And what I learned is that the first few times when you step in for yourself, it will be very uncomfortable and it will be very scary. It will take you a lot of energy. But you know what? It's worth it. Because once you relearn and you learn that nothing happens to you, and you learn that actually you are allowed to be yourself, that's the moment when you start becoming your authentic self. And it's small, small steps. So I think I'm with number 4 now. And number 4 is taking small steps. So just be compassionate with yourself, saying no for small things first before you go to the big. Being telling somebody what you really think versus um, what they want to hear, but maybe start with small things, not with big huge topics that cause super much confrontation from beginning on, but small steps, one step at a time. And another thing you can do, and that's number 5, is always return to your breath to regulate your nervous system, because your nervous system is going to be the one that causes all that stress, because it's used to and programmed in a way that you have to fear when you're authentic. And that's why it's about reprogramming that, so your nervous system gets used to it after a while. And it's always beautiful to use breath work. So just bring all your attention to the breath and really allow yourself to focus on it and to watch it and to connect to your breath and to ground yourself to the floor. So leave your comments below what your experiences is with the good girl syndrome, with always being nice. And you can write me. I would be super happy to read from you in person. And I wish you all the best. And believe me, it's all worth it. Becoming your authentic self. I'm telling you, that's the best thing that can happen to you. So really become aware of that your niceness and your goodness is keeping you from going there. And I cheer you up to walk that path. I see you, I hear you, and I feel you, because we're all connected. So I wish you a beautiful day, and leave me a comment. Thank you for being here, for your time, for listening, and showing up for your own personal path. If something touched you today, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. And make sure to subscribe and get my weekly newsletter. You can always go deeper at mystic-psychology.com or find me on Instagram. I'd really love to connect to you in person, read your comments and messages. So until next time, stay close to your soul and trust what you feel, follow your intuition, and I can't wait to connect with you again.